Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Eternal Spring. I'm Paul Thurrott, and I am here in Mexico City, as always, with my wife, Stephanie. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
So, big day today. We got our temporary residency cards.
Yay.
Boy, it was a long day. So, as a kind of recap, I guess back in January, we applied for temporary residency in Mexico. We made a video about that. Our application was approved 2 weeks later when we went to the consulate in Philadelphia. Made a video about that. We wanted to get back here to Mexico City as quickly as possible, obviously, to finish the process because you have to do that here. And we made a video about that as well. The problem was we had some scheduling issues. We put our house on the market, which we also made a video about. And here we are. So we arrived last Thursday. How did that go, Stephanie?
Yes. So, step one of this process is, as most of you probably know, when you get to passport control and you're in the process of getting your residency, you don't just go through and get a tourist visa stamp. If you did, you would actually have to start the process over, or at least leave the country and return to the country, which would be horrible. So
yes,
we got there late at night, took a night flight, and we were in the passport line for about 40 minutes, which is really long. We've
never happened
before. Yeah, we've just get there and we're like, oh, all these people.
I think it was the night flight. We usually fly early. So
yeah, we usually fly earlier. Waited in line, got up to the desk, and so we have the temporary visa that's applied to your passport that we had as the first step in Philadelphia. So the woman there at the desk, looked at that. She stamped the process went at the end. It went all okay. She stamped the visa. She wrote
It was a nail biter. You're kind of underplaying. She looked confused. She stared at her screen. She walked into a back room.
She took Paul's passport away.
It was, and of course it's kind of late at night and we're like, what's going on?
And the normal process is they'll say, why are you here? How long will you be here? And they write a number in your passport and you're done in 30 seconds. And we were there like a solid 15 or 20 minutes. It was really kind of, we thought this was just going to be an automated thing almost. And it took a while.
It was a long day. It was stressful for us because this was important to us, right? We wanted to get this right. We did.
And I think honestly, she wanted to get it right too. And she wanted to be careful. So because she wrote Conhe, which means that you're in the process of moving from a temporary visa to a temporary residency card, and 30 days. So because that's how long you have to take to complete the process here in Mexico. And she showed us where there's a QR code that you can scan to download the forms that you need to complete. And
so we should talk about that a little bit. I'm sorry. Up through the end of last year, Mexico had something called an FMM, which I hesitate to pronounce in Spanish. Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Forma migratoria multiple.
So this is basically an immigration form. So in the past, what you would do is fill this form out on the plane. You would hand it to the immigration passport officer. They would tear it in half and give you part of it. And you had to keep it, and then you had to bring it back when you left the country. Now they stamp your passport. But because they were stamping our temporary visa, we needed to download a digital FMM, print it out, sign it, fill it out, whatever. Because we needed to bring that to the immigration office in Mexico City, in our case. So she explained that to us. But we didn't need that, right? Because we had contracted with someone to kind of facilitate
handle that
process.
Part of the process for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's a company or a person, Yvonne Pavan at her company's Host Relocation. We've mentioned her in the earlier video. We spoke with her. We did a Zoom meeting with her, and she kind of stepped us through her services and what she can provide. It's a company that's based in Querétaro. So we met her associate, whose name was Alan, who is, I think, in charge of Mexico City for her company.
Right.
And then he came over.
He came to the apartment. Yeah. The next day. Yeah. We got in late, and he came the next, I don't know if it was morning, early afternoon, doesn't matter. But he had brought the printed out FMMs that we needed, and we filled, they were filled out, and then we signed them. And then the first disconcerting thing, I'll call it the second. The passport control is the first disconcerting issue, or is disconcerting moment. The second one was we actually had to give him our passports, and he took those and the signed FMMs. We paid him half of the fee, and he left. And that's a big gut check moment. But he called and we texted with Yvonne and make sure this was all in the up and up, obviously. And the reason he had to do that was because he was going to stand in line at the National Institute of Migration, which in Mexico City is in Polanco, which is not particularly close to anything, frankly. It's kind of on the outskirts there. And get us an appointment, right? Because otherwise, this is something we'd have to do. And when I say get in line, what I mean is between Sunday and Monday at 1 o'clock in the morning, you go to this building and you stand in a really long line of people who are all there to get those appointments. So I think he finished up at about 1:30 a.m. Texted us, which I didn't see. But what he had told us, we were asleep. But what he had told us was that this would be on Tuesday. Interestingly, Yvonne, in her own communications with us, said it will probably be Tuesday, but there's a very small chance it could be Monday. It was Monday. so at 6:30 in the morning, I was awoken by the confusing sound of an alarm, I thought. And I figured it was Stephanie, right? Maybe you would set an alarm. You never know. It's a Monday morning. And I, in my delirium, I suddenly realized the sound is coming from my side of the bed. And I realized it was my phone. And I looked at it and it said Yvonne Pavan. It was, Yvonne calling. And it was 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, 6:30.
So I missed the call and I was getting ready to call her back, but she called again immediately. And she said, sorry to call you so early. No problem. And she said, what happened is, and I thought, here we go. So I guess this is disconcerting moment number 3. Something went wrong. Alan has disappeared. Alan has gotten in trouble. Alan has hurt himself. Alan could not get you an appointment. Something like that. And that's not what she said. She said, Alan was able to get your appointment, but it's for this morning at 9 a.m. But we need to meet Alan at 8:30 a.m. So I thanked her. I said, we will do that. And, panic ensued. So we got ready as quickly as we could. It takes, technically, if there's no traffic, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it takes about 20 minutes to get to Polanco from here. But this would be rush hour on a Monday. So it could take 50 minutes, right? And we got an Uber. Actually, I don't know if we should waste too much time in the Uber, but unfortunately, because of all the one-way streets in our area, sometimes Ubers have to go in this weird direction where they kind of go by our block in the back, go across a major street, do a circle, come back. It's this gigantic mess. I won't belabor the point, but this guy went in a huge loop to get to us, and we tried to cut that off by meeting him at it didn't work. Anyway, we got in the Uber, we did that, and we made our way to Polanco. I've been talking for a while. I'm sorry. How did that go?
Polanco. Well, we got there fine. Actually, despite feeling really rushed and having to get out some money before we got into the Uber and making it over there in time, we ended up getting there just after 8, and we didn't have to meet Alan until 8:30. So we had a little bit of time to walk around. And again, there's lines and there's people, and Alan handed us over the passports and the FMMs, and he kind of talked us through what we would expect, because he's not allowed to come into the building with us. He can,
which by the way would have been very helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, I sorry to interrupt too. You have to wear a mask. Now, we thought of that before we went. People in Mexico, a lot of people here still wear masks. It's not required, but I think it is required in government buildings.
I think so too, because he asked if we had them.
Yeah,
we did remember them, and there was at least one woman outside selling them.
That's right. Smart, was smart, but yeah. Anyway, we did bring our masks, so we did think of that at least.
And unfortunately, we'll talk you through this as best that we can. I mean, if Alan was able to walk us through this, that would have been great. That's not possible. You can't take any photos or videos or even use your phone pretty much at all inside the building. So it would be great if we could share photos or videos of how the process went exactly, but
yeah,
you're just going to have to take our word for it.
Well, yeah, the last photo we have some photos from outside in the beginning. It's hard to explain because I don't, without having a facilitator there, I'm not sure how we would have known where or when to go. There were lots of people like us with facilitators, but there was different groups going through the gates right around 9. At one point,
gates, different lines coming into the same gate from different directions.
Yeah, it's a big building with lots of entry points and different ways to go, and you could see people all around the building doing stuff. But our particular group, 20 people ish, kind of scrummed over to a corner. It was supposed to be a line, but it was more of a gathering. And a man came to the door and started calling names, and eventually he called our names, and we were off by ourselves.
Right. So once he calls your name, we say goodbye to Alan. Alan waited for us, waits outside for the time that we're in there.
Long time.
I will say, probably if you speak Spanish well, you could manage this process because you'd have the language skills to ask people, what line do I need to be in? Where do I go? What do I do? I think for the level of Spanish that we have at this point, hiring a facilitator was the right choice.
I don't know. Inside the door, I think we could have handled it, and we did because we had to.
Yeah, we had to.
Just getting in the door, though, would have been difficult. I think.
Yeah, I think so. But so the first step, they tell you, kind of gesture, tell you the first thing you do is pay. So
well, the first thing you do is wait to pay.
Wait. So you walk, in our case, we walked down this long hall. The payment windows weren't quite open yet because they let you in a little bit before 9, but they start taking payments at 9. Having never done this before, thinking of a payment, I think this is going to be a 5-minute process where you give them your credit card and you pay for something, which was how it was at the consulate in Philadelphia. You just literally, it's making a payment.
That's exactly right.
But the payment process was sit on a bench and wait in the order that you came in so that they would send you down to the windows in the same order. Right. And then it was a involved process. It mostly involved standing at the window while the agent did a lot of things. It
took, how long would you guess? 40 minutes?
I was going to say at least 30, probably more than 30.
This is one of those instances where people can explain to you that there's bureaucracy, that governments move slowly. There's going to be a lot of paper, and it doesn't mean anything to you until you see it. It was crazy how slow this went. The woman that helped me, and honestly, she was very nice, and by the way, did not speak English. Now, one of the things they told us was, don't worry, everyone in INM speaks English. She did not. So she had to reference 50%, the guy.
50%, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I got through that, and the man next to her helped. But, the way I'm standing in front of her now. Now it is open, and now I've been directed to this particular window. And I can't imitate this, but she took out a little coin purse, took a little cloth, took off her glasses, very carefully cleaned one and then the other, and looked at it and said, nope, not ready yet. I mean, I think I stood there for 3 to 5 minutes before she even acknowledged that I was there. And it was like, here we go. This is going to be this kind of experience. She was very nice. I mean, it was, and on
our part, most of what you have to do at that time is print your full name, sign your signature as it appears on your application or your passport, sign to pay for your credit cards. It's not hard, but definitely wear comfortable shoes if you have any kind of foot or back or hip problem, because you're going to just be literally standing up in one spot for 30 or 40 minutes. Or we did. I don't know if it's the same for everybody. But
I don't stand still like that for a long time anymore. I'm not, I'm not working retail or whatever. And we got through it anyway.
Yeah. So. Oh, and the payment is, it's 5,108 pesos right now, which
it was for us, right? And by the way, we should say Visa or MasterCard, I think, debit or credit card.
Debit or credit, American Visa, Express, MasterCard, no American Express.
No cash.
Yeah. For today, the exchange rate's the dollar's a little bit weak, so that was $284 for each of us today.
That was more than I thought. I thought I could have sworn this was going to be $45. I don't know where that comes from, but
I think that's the amount that we paid at the Philadelphia consulate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I didn't look it up again, and so I was a little surprised by how much it was. And of course, honestly, you think about it, 20% or 20 to 1 exchange rate. It's a little bit less than that now, actually, but
Mhm.
it's pretty easy math. And yet I kept looking at this thinking, I can't be doing this right. It can't be this high, but it was,
Mhm.
it was 284 each.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Mhm. So we finished with those people. They give you a small stack of papers and
Yeah.
your passport
A
back.
lot of paper changed
And
hands today.
then, yep. And then they send you back down the way you came
Yep.
towards the door that you came in. And they said, look for the CURP desk on the right. It doesn't seem like there's going to be anything on the right because there's not that much on the right,
Yeah.
but there is right before the entrance we came in. There is in fact a desk. There's a short line in the hall opposite that desk for people to
Wait.
pass off their papers
To
to this
wait
person.
is what it is.
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
second wait.
Second wait.
Also the shortest wait, I should say.
Yes.
That one went pretty quick.
That one
I will
went pretty
say,
quick.
depending on what you were doing there, some people walked right out of there with a card, and I
Mhm.
suspect they might have been renewing or I don't know, but they weren't
Yeah,
doing what we were
replacing a
doing.
duplicate maybe, or
So
replacing a lost card. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, there's no way to know. But people like us who were applying for the first card had a long way to go. We're not done. So
Mhm.
in our case, she called our names, the woman at that desk, and then directed us. Actually, she just kind of said, go over there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we're perpendicular to the way we went. Now we're going all the way to the end of the building again, but in a different direction.
Mhm.
And once again, there's no direction whatsoever. There are no people saying, oh, there's no signs that say this is where you go. We had to ask a woman who was just standing in the corner,
Mhm.
and she pointed at some stairs.
Mhm. And despite the next step being on the second floor, you
Yeah.
don't walk up one flight of stairs, you walk up
Nope,
3 flights of
3.
stairs.
And it was, man, talk about, we were winded by the time we got to the top. It's high altitude, right? I thought we were doing great heart rate wise, and then we hit the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, then we walked into a room that was very much like a DMV. It was a very familiar looking room.
Mhm.
Rows of people at desks with screens and a thing for it looked like a little Connect sensor or something that would take your photo, and a fingerprint readers and all that kind of stuff. So, and lots of people, lots of seats, lots of waiting.
Mhm. Lots of waiting.
And my God, where we were in there a long time.
Right. So you go in and somebody takes one of your papers and tells you to sit, and you sit and don't look at your phone because there's a guy walking around
He
and
was pretty
he's
serious
catching
about it.
people if they use their phone.
I could be wrong, by the way, with the time frame, but I think I looked at my watch and it was 10:30, 10:35, something like that. Oh,
Mhm.
that seems it would be even earlier though. I'm not sure, but we were in there a long time.
Hour and a half, maybe.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah. So you wait for a long time, and they just call names.
Yep.
There's, I don't know, 8 or 10 agents open
Yeah.
maybe in there.
Yeah, different people to different desks, and you could kind of watch the process happen. They would take the photos, a little bit of conversation, fingerprint reader, fingerprint scan, whatever, and then they would go sit down, and then just a few minutes later, they would get called again to the same window, even if they were helping someone else, and they would just kind of hand them the card, like so the card was kind of fresh out of the oven, whatever. They made it right there. So
yeah,
we saw this, and I remember I said to you at least twice, based on the people in the room, and I said, I think we're going to be pretty. I think it's going to happen pretty soon. That did not happen. That did not happen.
No.
Yeah.
Once they call your name, it's probably maybe you're at the window for 10 minutes with the person.
Yeah, maybe.
If your agent doesn't speak English, it's by the time they take you, you've kind of seen, plenty of other people go through the process, so you understand what's going to be involved. And in my case, the agent just kind of gestured for everything, because they do take a photo straight on and then a left profile and a right profile as well. So they kind of tell you to turn and, do your 4 fingers on your right hand, 4 fingers on your left hand, your 2 thumbs on the fingerprint reader.
I had gone before you, and he asked me that question, and I said a little bit in Spanish, and then he just did what you said. He gestured, and when you sat down, you ended up coming next to me. If I could have talked to you, I would have said, you just say yes, because you can handle this level of Spanish. You could, but she treated you like a child, who doesn't speak the language, because you said the same thing I did. So it was fine. It worked out fine.
Yeah, it worked out fine. So once you finish, you sit again, but like Paul said, you only wait 5 minutes.
Not
maybe
even, it was just a few minutes. Yeah,
once
it was quick.
That part finishes, the card processing is real quick, and then they call you over, hand you your card, and then you're done. That's your temporary residency card. It's comparable to, in the United States, what we would call a green card.
Right.
This card allows you to stay in Mexico for a year. And once that year is up, you can renew it for 1, 2, or 3 years. And I believe the difference is only the amount that you pay. Then after 3 years, whether you do them incrementally or 1 3-year chunk, you can convert your temporary residency to permanent residency. Right. And then that's good forever.
So this card, I don't know that we will use it in any meaningful way, right? We're not going to bring it into, I suppose if somebody asks for identification, this would be a small, it's a little card. So it's a smaller thing to carry around, like a license, right? So not like a passport, but legally, I think we're required to bring our passport with us when we're in this country. So I'm not sure that helps, but there are 2 important numbers on it. Actually, one of them is very important. And I'm going to have you talk about that because you can say the names in Spanish better than I probably can.
All right. The first number is called the NUE, and that's the Numérico Único de Extranjero, and that's a foreign resident number.
Right. So only given to foreigners.
Yes, only given to foreigners, and that appears on your card. The second one, which is the important one, is called, in shorthand, called a CURP, which is a Clave Única de Registro de Población. Yep. And that's your identification number that you can use that residents and Mexican citizens get to do
sort of a social security number, right? Yeah. Sort of a tax ID.
Like government administrative tasks.
Yeah.
You need this number to do that kind of thing.
Well, and for us, there are important things. We needed this for very specific things, right? To open most bank accounts, you have to have this number. To join the national healthcare program, which we may want to do at some point. And then to get for down the road, if we were to sell this place, you can get a homeowner exemption from paying capital gains tax on the sale. You have to have this number to do that. You have to have this number just to sell the place, actually. So, let alone the capital gains tax. So the exemption for that. And then these are things we don't need ourselves, but if you wanted to buy a car, get a Mexican driver's license, I think pay income taxes.
Yeah, if you earn income in Mexico and you need to pay your income taxes, you need it for things like that.
So that won't, I don't think we'll need that stuff.
They don't affect us, but I'm sure they affect a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's good to know about. So by the time we walked out the door, we had walked in at 9. It was it
pretty
11,
close to noon?
11:50, yeah, 11, close to noon. So Alan had said, this will be 2 hours ish, and it was almost 3 hours ish. And yeah, that was most of it, right? We paid Alan the other half of the fee. And he contacted Yvonne and sent her photos of our residency cards. And then we were standing there blinking in the sun, starving because it was almost noon and we haven't really eaten, and we're just plus we had been woken up in the most awful way. Well, not the most awful way, but I mean, in an unexpected way.
It turned out really good. It's like we arrived here on Thursday late at night, intending that really the big thing that we want to accomplish on this trip above all else was getting these residency cards. And we were working with Yvonne and we wanted to do it as early as possible in the trip. But we're here for 3 weeks. And I thought it would be sometime in the first week. And it took a long time, but to have an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning, and then to be done with that at noon, even though it was kind of stressful and it felt a little rushed and we didn't really know what we were doing a lot of points in it. It was done, and it was done quickly. And I think it went as well as it could.
I think that my key takeaway from this is I've been told by so many sources and people, just individuals, they've said, the hard part is the first part, the second part's easy. You just basically go, you would think it would be easy. You would think that the entire process would be what we did in that third part of the process, where you just walk in the building, you wait in a DMV like thing, you do that process, you get your card and you go, because we've already done everything, right? No, there's a lot of stuff. And that process was helped a lot by a facilitator. It could be disconcerting to people who don't know any Spanish at all if you go in there and you run into someone who doesn't speak English. or your language. And you know, you're going to be on your own. And we were told everyone there speaks English, and that's not true. I mean, the person who helped me at the payment desk and the person at the end, the people I spent the most time with, right? I mean, literally, if it was 2 hours and 50 minutes, 2 hours and 35 to 40 minutes of that was spent, well, a lot of it was sitting in a room, but the people I interacted with did not speak English. So I think that's important to know. That'll be different from place to place.
Yeah.
For sure.
And person to person. The person who helped me at the
Yes.
first payment window spoke English perfectly
Right.
well.
That's right.
And helped your person.
That's right. Yeah, he was good. He was good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I'm glad. You know, it was more expensive than I thought it was going to be. But that's on me. I just forgot.
I do think the first part is more difficult in the sense that you personally could make more mistakes that would make the process end, because you have to bring all your financial documentation, and if you don't bring everything you need and have everything in order, they can turn you away. Where the second part, you've already done that, and we had a facilitator do our form for us, so there were less opportunities for us to make a mistake. But
I feel like we could have handled filling out an FMM, honestly, but yeah, but you know, whatever. It was all prepared for us. Yeah, it's nice that you're in your own country when you could really screw things up or be denied, right? It would be horrible to fly to Mexico, wait, you know, get your appointment, go through this process, and then have them look at your financial documents and say, sorry, this isn't enough. And for whatever reason, and now you're there, and what are you going to do? I mean, so at least you can do that part at home, wherever you are, or close to home, hopefully. But you know, I mean, we can pretty much coast for the next 2.5 weeks. We're here for 3 weeks in Mexico City. This was very stressful, and we wanted to get this done. It's done, and I'm hopefully you just got to calm down now. It's done, so we're good. You know, we're good for the next year. That's good.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's good, and I think I hopefully answered all the questions for you here. But if people are going through the process and you have additional questions, please just throw them in the comments, because, you know, we're happy to help anybody else who is, you know, a week or a month or a few months behind us in the process.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the service we used, Toast Relocation with Yvonne, was great. I think they were great, both of them, her and Alan. Not inexpensive, right? But a great service for someone to go do that thing for us, which honestly, the hardest part in some ways would have been, well, the hardest part, getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning and doing that process. And then I think just getting in the door. I don't know how we would have figured that out. And it sounds like a dumb thing. And despite the lack of Spanish inside that I experienced, I did navigate that just fine. It was no problem. I don't know how we would have done it. You know, so anyway, I guess the short version is just, I felt like using a facilitator was the right choice for us.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. This is probably a long one. I'll have to look after it's done, but thank you for sticking with us, and we'll be back soon with another video.
Bye.